You want to know why you keep getting fired from every job you got? You want to know why relationships that are so strong in your life end up crashing out in the end and you don't have a single person around? You want to know why the way you're leading your life right now is leading to an ultimate destruction, ultimate isolation, ultimate exile? You want to know why? The older you get, the more expensive crash outs become. I will never forget my wife telling me, if you don't get yourself under control, you're not safe for us. Your small-mindedness is going to prevent you from living a big life. What's going on, everybody? I'm Will Wilson Jr., and you're watching the Willpower Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me on episode 1 of the Willpower Podcast. I really do think what we're going to talk about today is going to be really helpful. Now that I'm officially a YouTuber, I got to do all the YouTube things, right? So I need you to comment, I need you to like, I need you to share, I need you to hit the bell, do all the things that you know you got to do to help us grow this podcast. I was thinking about this earlier. Now, I dropped out of college, but I do remember this one little piece. When we used to have to do discussion boards, you had to comment or put something on the discussion board, and then you had to engage with 2 other people. That's what I want the comment section to be like on the Willpower Podcast, because I started this podcast for this one reason: to equip people with the tools they need to build a big life. I don't think the world needs another podcast. I don't think people were sitting around waiting for another podcast to pop up. And I've said this in the intro, and I've said this out loud publicly before I believe this. A podcast microphone don't make you smarter. It doesn't necessarily make you any better. It just makes you louder. And I wanted to lend my voice to helping you build a big life. And I think our conversation today is going to help you do that. I want to spend however long we do this podcast helping you build a big life. And I don't think we can have that conversation without first talking about the people you're around. And I think this is the best way for us to not just start this podcast, but I think it's the first kind of brick to lay in the foundation of you being able to build a big life. Here's our topic for episode 1 of the Willpower Podcast. And I really, really felt like this was the best time for us to be able to have this conversation. Episode 1. I didn't think this needed to wait till episode 10. I felt like episode 1 was the best time for this. So here we go. You ready? Here we go. Today's episode title, today's topic is this: the day I realized I'm the problem. Man, the day I realized I'm the problem. So I'm the middle child of 12 kids. There's 12 kids in my family. I'm the middle child of 12. I got 5 older sisters: Dana, Lisa, Cece, Tiff, Taylor. And then I was born, praise the Lord, thank God. And then Whitney, Hillary, Paige, my brother Kenneth was born, and then Kimberly and Kelly. The middle child of 12. So I've been surrounded by strong, brilliant, beautiful, very outspoken Black women my entire life. I think Black women make the world go round. If you're not a Black woman, please don't take offense to that. My wife is Hispanic, so I love everybody. I'm just saying I was born in a family full of brilliant Black women, and I'm here for anybody Black women especially. I'm here for you. That's what's up. I remember my parents were out one day and they left us home. And when you got that many kids, babysitting, I don't think my parents ever paid for a babysitter. And me and my sister Taylor got into it. And to know Taylor's to understand that if she's on your side, she's the best. Ride or die. If she's against you, she is by far the worst enemy you could ever have. This particular day, me and Taylor are at odds, and I don't even remember what we are arguing about. I just remember I got so worked up that I stood at the top of our I can't believe I'm sharing this story. I stood at the top of our stairs and yelled down to her and called her out of her name. I can't say it on YouTube, but the 5-letter B word. Taylor started laughing, which I later learned she pushed me to this point, and called my parents and told my dad. She called Bill Wilson and told Bill Wilson that I had called her out of her name. And I'll spare you the details on the discipline I received from my dad when he got back home. But what I will tell you is it's the first moment in my life I remember my inability to regulate my emotions. It's the first time in my life I remember my inability to regulate my emotions. I could spend the next 10 hours telling you about mistakes that I have made in moments where I don't want to hurt your feelings. I failed. I know we don't like to say that about ourselves, but I failed to regulate my emotions. In fact, it was an area of my life that was probably the weakest. Now, when you're a teenager, your dad comes home and whoops you, and you sit down and make you hug your sister, whatever your parents do. Some of y'all did time out. It's fine. But whatever that is at a teenager, the price you pay for that is correction or discipline from your father. Here's why I want to talk about this, though. The reason I want to talk about this is because the older you get, the more expensive crash outs become. And at some point in your life, you got to learn this lesson. Every crash out gets reconciled by a cash out. Yeah, you're going to have to pay for some of that emotional irregulation. Yeah, you at the crib punching holes in the wall, and then now you either got to pay somebody to come in there and fix it, or you got to go to Home Depot, buy sheetrock, and you got to patch the wall up. What I'm trying to get you to understand is some of us are at this point in our lives where crashing out is too expensive. It's just too expensive. And there are moments I have felt justified in telling somebody off. I have felt, you don't understand. I just had to get that out. I just had to say that. But it costs me more than it costs the person in the moment. The most I can do to a person in the moment is embarrass them. Maybe, smack them around. But like what the person who's receiving a crash out on the other end of a crash out, for me, what they're getting from me is a moment of embarrassment, is a moment maybe of emotional trauma or whatever. The price I always ended up paying for my crash outs, and if you're going to be honest, I'm putting my finger in the camera. If you're going to be honest, I feel like you would tell yourself the truth. If you're going to be honest, if you're lying to yourself still, I'm praying for you. But if you're going to be honest, some of them crash outs are expensive. Some of them crash outs are financially expensive. Some of them are mentally expensive. The mental work you got to do once you calm down to go and reconcile a bunch of relationships, it just isn't worth it. The emotional expense you got to pay in order to get right with every single person you may have offended, because some of us black out, and when we black out, the little bit of mental filter we have for what comes out of our mouth is just off, and we are liable to say some damaging and hurtful things, all because we lack this emotional regulation. There's this moment, my family and I were living in Tampa, Florida. My wife, Rebecca, and I had all three of our kids. Our youngest was still in the car seat, so he was very, very young. This man in a big old pickup truck comes and cuts us off, and we're in a little Honda Civic. And God bless the Honda Civic. We got great miles out of it, and missed that car a little bit, actually, to be honest. We're in our Honda Civic, and this big old pickup truck that's lifted on ridiculous tires, and the kind of man you think is driving that truck was driving that truck that day. Spiky hair, motorcycle glasses, whatever. He cuts us off, and what I'm describing to be emotional regulation or crash outs is the losing of your temper. And I lose my temper. I like snap. And I start following this dude, and he's running red lights, and I'm running them right behind him, swerving through lanes. My wife is screaming at me to tell me to stop, and I can't even hear her. I've blacked out, and I'm just following this dude. Finally, he pulls over in an intersection that's leading into a neighborhood, and I get out my car. Hopefully, he ain't watching this. I want you to share the podcast, but maybe don't share it if you're in Tampa, Florida. Okay. I get out my car. I run over to his truck, and he's got a step gate to get up into his truck. I step up on his truck door, on his driver's side door, and I'm yanking on the handle, and all kinds of just horrible things are coming out of my mouth. And I look into the truck, and this man is frozen in fear. And I'm yanking on the door handle, saying terrible things about him, his wife, and his mom, and things I deeply regret and I'm so apologetic for, and I don't condone in any way. And I'm yanking on the door handle, and then I start punching the window, trying to get inside this man's truck. And had I gotten my hands on him, I don't know if I'd have my freedom, if I'd be sitting here filming this podcast right now. And then out of nowhere, I hear my wife screaming at me. I finally hear her voice, and I kind of like freeze, get down off his truck, and my wife is screaming at me, and I turn around and she's crying her eyes out, And I can hear my kids screaming in the car. They're screaming because their mom is screaming, and they're all little, and nobody knows what's going on. And my baby son is just crying because it's loud. And I come back to my normal consciousness, and I run over to the car. We get in and we go home. And I will never forget my wife telling me, if you don't get yourself under control, you're not safe for us. Oof. Oof. Because I'm trying to tell you, every time, the older you get, the more you progress in life, every time you crash out, you got to cash out. The price I was getting ready to pay for that temper was my family. And had my wife left me, had she taken my 3 kids away from me and explained this story to anybody with half a functioning brain would have said, you made the absolute right decision. Because at what point does that temper turn around and become a danger to you and your kids? She would have 100% made the right decision. If one of my 10 sisters called me and said, this is what happened with my husband, and they explained that story to me, as their brother, I would go, hey, y'all, how safe are y'all? So I couldn't even be mad at her. I was so broken as a man because my temper was getting ready to cost me my family. That was the day I realized I'm the problem. I'm the problem. I can look back on it now and laugh, but in the moment, it wasn't that funny. And some of you are watching this and you're in a moment that really ain't that funny. You're not far enough removed from this for you to be able to look back and laugh at it. You're in the middle of realizing your lack of emotional regulation is starting to get very expensive. And at some point, you become emotionally, you become mentally, you even become spiritually. And if it goes on too long, you'll become physically dangerous to the people you actually love the most. And I decided that day my temper, I didn't want to have that temper more than I wanted to have my family. So I remember going and accepting some therapy that was provided for me through the church I was at the time. And, sometimes as Black people, we can kind of take our time getting to therapy. And I wish some of us would hurry up and get there a little bit sooner, because I believe therapy is an invaluable resource when there's something in our minds that is not functioning the right way. I think the exact same way, if you fall and break your leg, you need to go to the doctor so that the doctor who studied bones can help reset your bone so that you don't live a painful life and limp the rest of your life, because you don't have to. And when we go to therapy, this isn't a plug. I don't have a sponsor or anything like that. I'm just telling you my personal story. When we go to therapy, the things in our mind that are not functioning properly, somebody has studied to help us be able to do those things well, to set things right in our minds. I'll never forget, going to therapy was one of the most illuminating experiences of my entire life. It absolutely changed the way that I live and lead my life. I've always lived my life with a strong level of confidence, but up until going to therapy, that confidence often expressed itself through arrogance. Therapy is what humbled me. My therapist taught me more stuff than I'll ever be able to fit into an episode of a podcast. But here's the one thing I want to share with you, my therapist said. I'll share this with anybody who's willing to listen. So some of you who know me, you've heard me say this before, but take this reminder. Some of you don't know who I am. You clicked on this video. Somebody you know sent it to you. Don't matter. You need to hear this. My therapist said to me, I want to start a new segment on our first episode called Take 5. This is a moment that's not just 5 minutes. It's kind of 5-ish minutes. But really, I want to take 5 because I want us to kind of talk about something that's not our main topic, but I want to give you 5 steps or questions or points of reference to think through as we talk about this. This, to me, is probably the most important tool when it comes to leading. I don't think you're capable of leading other people well until you lead yourself well. We've all been led by somebody who has been put into a leadership position, whether it's at a grocery store, a store at the mall, a church, a nonprofit organization, or a big business. It doesn't really matter. We've all been led by people who we know the second they start leading, we like, you ain't got no business being in this role. And they're in a leadership position where they're required to lead other people before they're capable of leading themselves well. So on this very first ever Take 5, I want to start with what I think is the most important leadership tool in my leadership toolbox. And that tool is my ability to mind my business. You got it. The first step in leading yourself well is minding your business. If we're going to be honest with ourselves, all right, we can't get to the Willpower Podcast lying. We got to tell the truth. If we're going to be honest with ourselves, there is some stress that we've got in our life right now. There is some frustration in our life right now that we would not be experiencing or carrying if we would just learn to mind our business. Had you kept your nose out of somebody else's business, you wouldn't know some of the information that's stressing you out this very day. So I want to start off with this, mind your business. And I've got these 5 questions that I'm kind of constantly asking. I've been asking myself these questions so long that I had to write them down. Y'all can't see, but every episode I have my iPad down here. I've been asking myself these questions so long that I had to write them out because they're kind of subconscious for me, but I want to offer them to you clearly so that you can write them down, so you can take some notes, so that you can do this a little bit better. Here's the first question. Does this have anything to do with me? The reality is, a lot of times when we are not minding our own business, if we were to step back and look objectively, we would realize we are deep, we are knee deep, waist deep, neck deep in somebody else's stuff that really don't got nothing to do with us. The first question I'm kind of trying to constantly ask is, does this have anything to do with me? Even if the issue at hand is what someone else has said about me, the answer to the question is probably still no, because your opinion ain't none of my, especially if you don't pay none of my bills. You ain't helping me build what I'm building. You're not helping me do what I'm doing. You're not helping me become who I'm trying to become. Even if it is your opinion about me, that ain't got nothing to do with me. The first question I'm constantly asking myself is, does this have anything to do with me? If the answer is no, I need to go ahead and mind my business. Question 2, does this affect my money? Does this affect my money? There is some stuff that I'm watching people allow happen to them that I'm like, my dog, my sister, my brother, my cousin, whoever, that could, I don't know if you could be making more money if you would just deal with this. The number 2 question I'm constantly asking is, does this affect my money? If what you got going on does not affect my money, it ain't got nothing to do with me, it doesn't affect my money, to think you can afford to pay attention to something that does not affect your money is unwise living. You can't live a big life like that. That is small-mindedness. Does this affect my money is question 2. Here's question number 3. If I don't get involved, what will happen? Because there's a lot of stuff we are jumping into that would actually resolve itself if we would just shut up. If we stayed out of it, whatever this little issue is, whatever this tension is, whatever this problem is, it would resolve itself, or the people who are involved in it would come to some kind of resolution. In fact, there is some stuff that's still lingering in our lives, not because it should have lasted this long, but because we got involved. There's some lies that should have died, but because you validated it with your presence, you validated it with your attention, it's still lingering in your life right now. If I don't get involved, what will happen is such an important question for you to ask yourself when it comes to the principle or the tool, the leadership tool of minding your business, because you're going to start realizing, if I don't get involved, this will be dead by next week. Question number 4, what happened the last time this happened? Man, it's episode 1, so I'm trying to take it easy on y'all. But here go the thing. Some of what we dealing with right now ain't new. Come on, tell the truth. This ain't new. We've seen this problem before. And sometimes the best way to motivate yourself to mind your business this time is to think about what happened last time this happened. Most of the tensions, most of the problems we're dealing with in our lives are not new problems. So if last 3 times this took place, I jumped in and got involved and I tried to save the day and I tried to tell everybody, and we hear again, then obviously my input ain't what's needed to resolve this for all of us to move on. What happened the last time this happened is oftentimes going to be able to help you understand or decide the best way to handle it this time. Question number 5, last and most certainly not least. What will I gain from this moment? Wow. If many of us were honest, a lot of the energy, a lot of the time, a lot of the money, a lot of the resources we have exhausted maybe felt like invested in a moment, but we look back and go exhausted. If we step back and looked objectively, we would all be able to agree there's really nothing for me to gain from this. So my involvement in it is not only is it not necessary, it's not even helpful for me. This is not to say you need to turn yourself into a transactional person. I'm only going to get involved if it benefits me. But if you're not gaining anything from it, at some point you've got to ask the question, why do I need to be? Right? Here go the 5 questions. Does this have anything to do with me? Does this affect my money? If I don't get involved, what will happen? What happened the last time this happened? And last and certainly not least, what will I gain from this moment? Leadership tool number 1 for your leadership toolkit: mind your business. You need to hear this. My therapist said to me, Will, you are a bull in a china shop. And I was like, absolutely. You know what? That's your boy. You know what I'm saying? What? That's me, man. I tear it up in here. He was like, yeah. You just need to remember, China's expensive and it never belongs to the bull. And I was like, oh. Now, if you ain't never got hit with a truth like that, Mike Tyson would grow one of the greatest boxers of all time. Mike Tyson says, yeah, everybody gets in a boxing ring and they got a plan until they get punched in the face. And I went to therapy going like, maybe you got a little thing of breathing exercise here and there, something for me, man. But your boy good. He said that to me and I got punched in the face. My therapist looked at me and said, yeah, man, but the bulls, the China don't belong to the bull. And it's expensive. You are tearing up other people's stuff that they worked hard to build. Then he asked me this invaluable question. He goes, Will, do you know how they get the bull out the china shop? I was like, nah, I ain't never heard that saying before. How do they get the bull? He said, yeah, they don't grab a red drape and try to Olay and lead him out the china shop. They grab a gun and shoot it. He said, you want to know why you keep getting fired from every job you got? You want to know why relationships that are so strong in your life end up crashing out in the end and you don't have a single person around? You want to know why the way you're leading your life right now is leading to an ultimate destruction, ultimate isolation, ultimate exile? You want to know why? It's the only way for people to get from away from you. It's the only way. They got to kill you. And every time you get into a new environment, you want people to know you're a bull because it grabs attention. You wanted people to know you're a bull. It grabs attention. Oh my God. He said this to me. He goes, if a bull busted through this door right now, the first thing you would do is notice and go, oh snap, there's a bull. He said, the tension with that is you're going to run and hide. And if the bull comes to you, you're going to find a weapon and you're going to kill it. Like this, how do you, there's no other way. He said, you're robbing people of any other option of how to handle you. He was so right that the church we were meeting at, having these sessions, ended up firing me. God bless them. They did what they were supposed to do. I was a bull in their china shop. And it was one of the most enlightening experiences I've ever had. Then my therapist says to me, you can continue to be a bull if you want to, or you can be a butterfly. If a bull busted through this door right now, he said, you and I both would stop what we were doing and go, oh my goodness, there's a bull. He said, if a butterfly started flying in here, you know what we would do? We would stop and go, oh my goodness, there's a butterfly. But a butterfly, people try to go and catch. A bull, people try to kill. Woof. He said, yeah, you're the problem. This is not because you're young and black. It's not because you're talented. It's not because people are, it's because you're a bull. I'm inviting you to take on some new tools so you can become a butterfly. You'll get all the attention you still want. You ain't never seen a butterfly and went, oh, this is a butterfly. A ladybug will stop and get your attention, right? He goes, you'll get all the attention you want being a butterfly. You will do way less damage. People will feel so much safer around you. People will desire to actually be around you more. People will actually see the brilliance in all of your colors. But if you're going to keep tearing stuff up, this ends one way. And I want to tell somebody who's watching this right now, man, the more you crash out, the more you're going to have to cash out. The more you crash out, the more you're going to have to cash out. And I'm telling you, however big of a bull you are, you ain't as big of a bull as I was. You ain't tore up as much stuff as I tore up. You too old. Listen, you're too old. I remember telling my therapist, you don't understand. Me being like this chip on my shoulder is how I made it to where I'm at. And my therapist said, I know, Will, but you're not at where you were anymore. That's how you got here. But how you going to get to the next level isn't that same strategy. You got to go from a bull to a butterfly. It doesn't mean you have to change how brilliant you are. It doesn't mean you have to change how God made you. It doesn't mean it means the way you choose to express that, the way you choose to display that is completely different. You can demonstrate your power by tearing everything up, or you can demonstrate your power by being able to grasp and hold attention. Equally as powerful. One is just significantly less damaging. I was blown away, but I had to accept that this was the day I realized I'm the problem. Okay, you know what? I'm the problem. I'm the problem in my marriage. My wife is not jumping out the car fighting people. I am. I'm the problem in my household. I'm the problem in my job. And he was right. I was going from job to job and could not find stability. And it was always somebody else's fault. Always somebody else's fault. Oh, they couldn't handle how talented I was. Oh, they couldn't handle how gifted I am. Oh, they couldn't handle me. Oh, that person was jealous. And some of that might be true. That don't make you not a bull, though. And it was in this moment I made the decision, I'm going to be a butterfly. Here's the tension with this, is if I'm choosing to be in my butterfly area, don't make me turn into... This podcast is not sponsored by Terry Black's. They do got great barbecue, though. If I'm going to be a butterfly, don't take that kindness for weakness. The bull is still in there. And I will, you know what I'm saying? I feel like I need to say that because I don't want you to think, and from that day forward, I've been a butterfly floating around. That's not what's happened. There have been some times I've had to get back on my bull. You ain't got to like it. It's just the case. There's some people who ain't listening to a butterfly. You need me to knock some of this stuff over in here. Now that I knock some of it over and you see I'm serious, now I can fall back into the butterfly space. I'm not saying you got to kill the bull in you. I'm saying if you don't get it under control, other people will. I'm saying the more you crash out, the more you're going to have to cash out. Here's 3 practical steps I took to get out of that bull era and to remain in a butterfly area. And the first is you have to have some real, listen to this word, friends. You got to have some real friends, not people you pour into. Those are people you mentor, not people who pour into you. Those are people who mentor you. You got to have some friends, not people behind you, not people ahead of you in life. People who are right where you are in life, because real friends are essential to helping you grow in your self-awareness. You need some real friends. And once you get some real friends, you need to learn how to listen. You need to learn how to listen. You need real friends. How do I know if they're a real friend? They will tell you the truth. Not what you want to hear, the truth. Anytime I meet people like, this is my girl, we've been best friends. Oh, this is my dog, man. It's A1 from day one. I believe in your friendship if you can tell me how many times y'all disagreed and remain friends. If y'all always see eye to eye, I'm not saying you're not friends. I'm just going, I don't know if that friendship has been tested. But has any one of y'all had to pick up the phone and call the other one and go, you tripping, right? I trust your friendship if you go, whoa, hold on, homie. I'm single. You married. You don't get to do that. Nope. Then I trust your friendship. Y'all been able to remain friends after some challenge, after some accountability has been given. Now I do trust your friendship. You got to get some real friends who won't tell you what you want to hear, but they will tell you the truth. And then you have to listen to learn, not to lash out. You got to listen to learn. You need real friends. And then step 2, I started listening to learn. One of my closest friends, 2 of my closest friends in the whole world is a guy named Jesus Rios and another guy named Kedrick Clark. They're like covenant brothers to me. Great friends. There have been times both of them have been like, hey, shut up. Especially Ked. Zeus a little bit nicer, so he'll find a better way to say it. Ked be like, hey, man, shut up. Now's not the time for that question. Right now, let's just focus. Let's get this done. I had to get real friends around me who could tell me the truth. Not you're wrong, But a real friend is not so much you're right or wrong. You're smart enough to figure that out for yourself. But a real friend to help you go, you're right, but now's not the time. You're right, but that's not what we're talking about right now. You're right, but we need to focus on this. You got to get some real friends. You have got to listen to learn. And then number 3, you have got to find a way to hold yourself accountable to de-escalate. Number 3, you have got to find a way to hold yourself accountable to de-escalate. You have got to de-escalate. For me, it's the bull to butterfly mentality. It's that I go into environments when I feel myself getting ready to turn up and I go, I need to be a butterfly right now. I need to be a butterfly. I'm older than I was when I jumped out of my Honda Civic onto that man's truck that day. So now that I'm much older, almost 10 years, it's almost been 10 years since that moment happened. Now that I'm much older, it's much more expensive for me to crash out. And you've got to find a way to de-escalate. I found my way with the bull to butterfly mentality. If you're a Christian, the Bible says it like this. Jesus goes like, hey man, y'all are my sheep. I'm kind of sending you out to the slaughter, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to be wise as a snake, wise as a serpent, but I want you to be harmless as a dove. Whatever analogy you need, whether you need to rub your ears and count down backwards from 10, you might need to do some square breathing. You might need to do some gratitude practice, whatever it is you need to do. You've got to find something that actually de-escalates you. It don't de-escalate you if you're still ready to turn up. You've got to find something that helps you calm down. Every once in a while, I'll just go butterfly. I just need to be a butterfly. I need to be a butterfly. Because if not, I'm going to continue to be the biggest problem in my life. Listen, I hope that's helpful for you. I hope you got something out of that. And I hope this is going to help you build a big life. Here's how I want to end every episode of this podcast is by asking this one question. What are you going to do? What you going to do? I gave you 3 practical steps to take, but the first step is the most important. You got to get some real people around you. And for some of us, that's going to be a painful process because we're going to have to objectively analyze the people around us and realize I got some good people around me, but I don't have a real friend. For some of us, we're going to have to objectively analyze and realize you might be surrounded by real friends. You don't listen that good. The question is, what are you, not what's your boss going to do, not what your mom and them going to do. What are you going to do? Because if you are not going to decide to make a change, nothing will change. You've got to decide, hey, I'm going to find me some real friends. I'm going to decide I'm going to listen. Hey, I'm going to figure out a way to help de-escalate myself. I might need to take 3 strong and deep breaths. Whatever it is, you've got to make a decision. I'm going to do these things. If not, your small-mindedness is going to prevent you from living a big life. Well, family, I hope you enjoyed this first episode of the Willpower Podcast. And I hope that you share, that you comment, that you like, that you hit the bell, subscribe, do all the things. Most importantly, here's what I hope. I hope that after listening to this podcast today, your life is a little bit bigger. I'll see you guys next week.